Have you ever been accused of something you didn't do? That moment when everyone's eyes turn on you, judging you, condemning you, and there's nothing you can say to make them believe? That's where Rosa's story begins. A single lie, $800,000, and one brave little boy who refused to let the truth die. Watch until the end, because what happens next will restore your faith in justice. Welcome to Voice of Granny. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment your view on the story and where you are watching from. Have you ever been accused of something you didn't do? That helpless feeling when no one believes you? Well, let me tell you about Rosa Martinez, a woman whose life was turned upside down in a single night. Rosa was 28 years old, a hard-working maid who spent her days cleaning the massive Henderson estate in Houston, Texas. For 3 years, she'd polished those marble floors, dusted those expensive paintings, and served champagne to people who never looked her in the eye. But Rosa didn't mind. She needed the money. Back home in El Paso, her mother was sick, and her little girl, Sophia, was waiting for her to save enough to bring her to Houston. The Henderson mansion was the kind of place you see in movies. Crystal chandeliers hung from ceilings so high your neck hurt looking up. Golden picture frames lined the walls. Everything sparkled, everything shined. But underneath all that beauty, something dark was growing. Tonight was another one of those fancy parties. Rich people in expensive clothes, laughing too loud, drinking too much. Rosa moved between them like a ghost, refilling glasses, clearing plates, trying not to exist. She'd learned that lesson early. In houses like this, the help should be invisible. But there was one person who always saw her. Little Tommy Henderson, just 6 years old, with sad brown eyes that seemed too old for his face. Tommy's mother had died 2 years ago, and his father had remarried quickly. Too quickly, some would say. His new stepmother was Victoria Henderson, a woman who smiled with her mouth but never with her eyes. Tommy found Rosa in the kitchen that evening. "Can I stay with you?" he whispered, clutching his stuffed bear. "I don't like those people out there." Rosa's heart broke a little. She knelt down to his level. "Sweetheart, I have to work. But I promise I'll check on you, okay? You won't leave like last time?" he asked. He was talking about Christmas, when Victoria had sent Rosa home early for reasons no one explained. "I promise," Rosa said, and she meant it. That's when Victoria appeared, wearing a dress that probably cost more than Rosa made in a year. "Tommy, darling, don't bother Rosa. She has work to do." Her voice was sweet like honey, but honey can hide poison. "He's no bother, ma'am," Rosa said quickly. Victoria smiled that cold smile. "You're too kind, Rosa. But there's a line, isn't there? Tommy needs to spend time with people his age. Not the staff." The word staff felt like a slap. Tommy looked down at his shoes. Rosa just nodded, swallowing the hurt like she always did. The party went on. Rosa served, cleared, smiled politely, and stayed invisible. She noticed things, though. She always did. Like how Victoria laughed too much at the jokes of Mr. Andrew Pierce, her husband's business partner. How they whispered in corners. How Victoria's hand lingered on his arm, just a little too long. It wasn't Rosa's business. She told herself that. But something felt wrong. Around 9 o'clock, Thomas Henderson, Tommy's father, came rushing out of his office. His face was pale, his hands shaking. "Has anyone been in my study tonight?" he called out loudly. The party went quiet. All those laughing faces turned serious. Victoria rushed to his side. "Darling, what's wrong?" "The safe," Thomas said, his voice cracking. "It's open. The money's gone." You could hear people gasp. Someone asked, "How much?" $800,000, Thomas whispered. "The payment for the new property. It was there this afternoon." Victoria covered her mouth, and Rosa noticed how perfect her shock looked. Like an actress in a play. "Oh my God, Thomas. I saw someone near your study earlier." "Who?" Thomas demanded. Victoria hesitated, and tears formed in her eyes right on cue. "Rosa. I thought she was cleaning, but now." Every head in that room turned to Rosa. She felt the weight of all those eyes, all that judgment, all at once. "That's not true," Rosa said, and her voice shook. "I haven't been near the study all night." "Rosa, please," Victoria cried, the tears rolling down her cheeks now. "Don't make this harder. I saw you. I didn't take anything. Ask Tommy. He was with me most of the evening." Victoria pulled Tommy close, like she was protecting him. Children aren't reliable witnesses, especially when they're attached to the wrong people. Tommy struggled in her arms. She didn't do it. Rosa would never steal. But Thomas's face had changed. The man who'd always been kind to Rosa, who'd once driven her home in the rain, now looked at her like she was a stranger. A dangerous stranger. "Rosa," he said quietly, "can you explain why Victoria saw you there?" "Because she's lying," Rosa said before she could stop herself. "That's enough," Thomas said sharply. "Security, please escort her out. Until we sort this out." The security guard stepped forward. Rosa felt her knees go weak, but she kept her head high. "Mr. Henderson, please. You know me. I've worked here for 3 years. I would never." But he just looked away. Everyone looked away. Except Tommy. Tommy was crying, fighting against Victoria's grip. "Dad, no. Don't let them take her. She didn't do anything." Victoria held him tighter. "Sweetheart, I know you love her, but sometimes people disappoint us. Sometimes people we trust turn out to be thieves." Rosa's eyes filled with tears. "I'm innocent," she whispered. But no one was listening. The guard took her arm, not rough, but firm. As they walked her to the door, she looked back one last time. Tommy was reaching for her, his small hand stretching through the air like he could pull her back with love alone. "Rosa," he screamed. "Rosa, come back." The door closed. The beautiful mansion, the only place Rosa had felt useful in this big city, disappeared behind her. Outside, the night was cold and dark. Inside, the party music started again, like nothing had happened. Like she'd never existed at all. Rosa stood on that doorstep, her whole world crumbling, and realized something terrible. In this city, in this life, the truth didn't matter as much as money and power. And she had neither. But what she did have was something Victoria Henderson didn't understand. Rosa had survived worse. She had a daughter counting on her. And somehow, someway, she would prove her innocence. The fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. Have you ever felt so alone that even breathing feels like too much work? That's where Rosa found herself after that terrible night. Her apartment was tiny, just one room with a kitchen barely big enough to turn around in. The walls were thin. She could hear her neighbors arguing, babies crying, life happening all around her while hers fell apart. On her nightstand sat a photo of Sophia, her 8-year-old daughter, smiling with missing front teeth. That smile was the only thing keeping Rosa going. Her phone rang. It was her mother calling from El Paso. "Mija, how are you? You sound tired." Rosa stared at the ceiling, fighting back tears. "I'm fine, Mama. Just working hard." "Did you save enough for my medicine this month?" The medicine. Rosa had been saving every extra dollar. But now? Now she'd lost her job, lost her reputation, lost everything. Soon that money would go to rent, to food, to just surviving. "Yes, Mama," Rosa lied, the words tasting bitter. "I'll send it tomorrow." "Bless you, Mija. How's that little boy you care for?" "Tommy." Rosa's throat tightened. "He's okay, Mama." Growing fast. When the call ended, silence filled the room. Heavy, crushing silence. Rosa wanted to cry, but even tears felt like a luxury she couldn't afford. Days turned into weeks. Rosa tried everywhere to find work. She'd walk for hours in the hot Houston sun, knocking on doors of big houses, hoping someone needed help. At one house, a kind-looking woman smiled until Rosa mentioned where she'd worked before. "You said you worked for the Hendersons?" "Yes, ma'am." The woman's smile died. "I'm sorry. The position's been filled." At another house, the maid answered before Rosa could even knock. "Mrs. Chun says she's not hiring anymore." Through an upstairs window, Rosa saw a curtain move. Someone was watching. The rich people in Houston all knew each other. Victoria had made sure Rosa's name was poison. Every door closed, every opportunity vanished. It was like she'd been erased. One evening, Rosa walked home as the sun set, her shoes worn through, her spirit even more worn. When she reached her building, she stopped dead. A small figure sat on the steps, knees pulled to chest, face hidden. "Tommy! Tommy!" Rosa rushed forward. "How did you get here?" He looked up, and his eyes were red from crying. "I took a cab. I remembered your address from when Dad drove you home once." Rosa's heart nearly stopped. "Oh my God, Tommy. Your father must be so worried." "He doesn't care," Tommy said, his voice so small and broken. "Victoria doesn't talk to me anymore. She just tells me to eat and be quiet. Dad's always gone for work." "When did you last eat?" Tommy looked down. "Yesterday morning. Victoria said if I didn't like her oatmeal, I didn't have to eat anything. That did it." That broke Rosa's heart completely. "Come on," she said, taking his hand. "Let's get you some real food." 3 blocks away, there was a little Mexican restaurant called Maria's Kitchen. It was nothing fancy, just plastic tables and the smell of grilled meat and fresh tortillas. But it was real. It was home. Tommy stared at his plate of tacos like he'd discovered treasure. I've never had these before. Rosa had to laugh, even through her pain. Never had tacos? We're fixing that right now. He ate like a boy who'd been starving, which he probably had been. Not for food, maybe, but for love. For someone to care. Slow down, Rosa said gently. They're not going anywhere. These are so good, Tommy said between bites. Why doesn't Victoria cook like this? Because some people think love doesn't belong in food, Rosa said, half to herself. After a while, Tommy put down his taco and looked at her with those sad old eyes. Why can't you come back home? Because your dad and Victoria think I did something wrong. But you didn't. I know, sweetheart. But sometimes adults believe what's easier to believe. Tommy played with his straw, his small voice barely a whisper. Victoria said people like you come and go. What did she mean? Rosa had to look away. She knew exactly what Victoria meant. That maids, housekeepers, people like Rosa didn't matter. They were replaceable. Forgettable. I don't know, honey. Maybe she doesn't understand people like me. She also said you never really loved me. That you were just nice because they paid you. That cut deeper than anything. Rosa leaned forward, her voice shaking with emotion. Tommy, listen to me. I love you because you're you. Not because of money. You're my family, whether I work there or not. Do you understand? His eyes filled with tears. Then why can't you come back? Because life isn't fair, Rosa whispered. At that moment, a black BMW screeched to a stop outside the restaurant. Thomas Henderson jumped out, his face a mix of fear and anger. Tommy, he shouted, running toward them. What were you thinking? Tommy jumped. Dad, Thomas turned on Rosa, pointing his finger. How dare you take him from my house? I didn't, Rosa said, standing quickly. He showed up at my door. I would never. Don't lie to me. A 6-year-old doesn't cross the city alone. That's exactly what happened, Rosa insisted. I swear to you. Stop, Tommy cried. I ran away. She didn't take me. Thomas froze. You ran away? Because nobody listens. Victoria lies. Rosa didn't steal anything. People in the restaurant were staring now. Rosa wanted to disappear into the floor. Mr. Henderson, she said softly. I promise, I only wanted to feed him. He was hungry. Thomas's anger cracked for just a moment, and exhaustion showed through. If you ever go near my son again, I'll call the police. Dad, please. No, Tommy. Let's go. He grabbed Tommy's arm, but the boy resisted. I don't want to go. Victoria doesn't care about me. She laughs and sings like nothing's wrong. Thomas blinked. She what? Tommy's voice dropped. Last night she was on the phone laughing. This morning she was singing in the shower. She's not sad like she pretends. Thomas's jaw tightened, but he didn't respond. He picked Tommy up as the boy reached for Rosa. Rosa, don't let them take me. Rosa could only watch as the car pulled away, Tommy's face pressed against the window, still reaching for her. She stood on that sidewalk, shaking. But something had changed. Tommy's words echoed in her mind. Victoria lies. Victoria lies. And suddenly Rosa remembered. Victoria had known exactly when the study was opened. She'd been too precise, too prepared. And Andrew Pierce, arriving late that night, whispering in her ear. Rosa took a deep breath. For the first time since that awful party, she felt something new. Not fear. Determination. If Victoria Henderson had framed her, Rosa would find the proof. Not just for herself. For Tommy. Because if Victoria was lying about the money, what else was she lying about? Rosa turned toward the glowing Houston skyline. The city had taken everything from her. Her job, her reputation, her peace of mind. Now she was going to take back the truth. You know what they say, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Well, Rosa was about to walk right back into the enemy's house. 3 days after Tommy ran away, Thomas Henderson made a phone call that surprised everyone, especially Victoria. Rosa's coming back, he announced over breakfast. Victoria nearly choked on her coffee. Excuse me? What did you just say? Tommy's not eating. He barely sleeps. The school called, he's failing his classes, crying during recess. He needs stability. Stability? Victoria's voice went cold. You mean bringing back the woman who robbed us? We never proved that, Thomas said quietly. And until we do, I can't destroy her life over suspicion. Victoria slammed her cup down. If that woman steps foot in this house again, I'm leaving. Thomas didn't blink. You'll survive a week without getting your way. I have to go to Dallas for business. Someone needs to watch Tommy. In the hallway, Tommy heard everything. For the first time in days, he smiled. That afternoon, Thomas called Rosa. His voice was stiff, formal, like he was reading from a script. It would be temporary. Just 1 week while I'm in Dallas. You'll be under supervision. Victoria will be in charge. Rosa hesitated. This wasn't forgiveness, she could hear it. This was guilt. But it was also a chance. A chance to find the truth. I'll come, she said simply. The next morning, the Henderson mansion looked exactly the same. Grand, cold, perfect. But to Rosa, it felt like walking into a lion's den. Tommy saw her first. He ran across the marble floor and threw himself into her arms. You came back. She held him tight, breathing in the scent of his shampoo. I told you I'd never leave forever, didn't I? You kept your promise, he whispered. From the staircase, Victoria watched. Her face was calm, but her eyes were calculating. Cold. Thomas carried his suitcase to the car, kissed Victoria's cheek, hugged Tommy quickly, and nodded at Rosa. I'll be back Friday. Let's all try to make this a peaceful week. As the car disappeared down the driveway, Victoria descended the stairs. Her heels clicked against the marble like a countdown. I hope you understand, Victoria said, her voice smooth as silk. You're only here because Thomas feels sorry for you. I understand, Rosa said softly. Good. Then let's be clear about some rules. Victoria pointed at Rosa's purse. That stays in the entryway. You don't need it while working. Of course. The study is completely off limits. Even for cleaning. Yes, ma'am. And you don't answer the house phone. If it rings, you find me immediately. Rosa nodded. Victoria smiled sweetly. Perfect. Follow the rules, and we won't have problems. From that moment, the house became a prison. Everywhere Rosa went, Victoria followed. If Rosa dusted the bookshelves, Victoria appeared with wine, pretending to read. If Rosa cooked, Victoria leaned against the counter, inspecting every ingredient. Tommy noticed too. Why does she watch you all the time? He whispered while Rosa made breakfast. She just wants to make sure I do things right, Rosa said, glancing at the living room where Victoria sat with her phone. But you always do things right. Rosa smiled sadly. Some people need proof anyway. Victoria approached, smile perfectly in place. Tommy, finish your breakfast, sweetheart. Rosa's busy. Yes, ma'am. His voice was flat, defeated. The days crawled by. Victoria tightened her control. She created a rigid schedule for Tommy. 15 minutes for homework, 20 for play, 5 for bedtime stories. Tommy hated it. She says it's for my own good, he muttered once. But it feels like she's taking me away from you. That night, Rosa overheard a phone call. She was cleaning near the living room when Victoria's voice drifted out, low and urgent. No, he's still in Dallas. Of course he suspects nothing. Yes, I'll handle her. Don't call this number again, Andrew. Andrew Pierce. The business partner. Rosa's heart pounded. So they were still in contact. Still plotting something. 2 mornings later, Victoria cornered Rosa in the hallway. She held a $50 bill between her fingers. Can you explain this? Victoria asked coolly. Rosa blinked. That's mine. My last paycheck money. How convenient. Because $50 is missing from the kitchen cash box. That's just coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences. Tommy appeared at the top of the stairs, eyes wide. What's happening? Nothing, sweetheart, Victoria said sweetly. Just a misunderstanding. She turned to Rosa. Did you take it? Rosa saw it then. The trap. Victoria was planting doubt again, this time in Tommy's mind. No, Tommy, Rosa said firmly. I didn't. But she saw it in his eyes. The tiniest flicker of uncertainty. Victoria had planted the seed perfectly. Against my better judgment, Victoria sighed dramatically. I'll let this go. But from now on, there will be stricter rules. By Friday, Rosa felt suffocated. Victoria monitored her every move, turning Tommy against her one whisper at a time. That afternoon, while cleaning the master bedroom, Rosa found something. A crumpled paper in the trash can. A bank statement with Victoria's name, showing transfers to online gambling websites and ATM withdrawals at 3 a.m. The balance, -$2 million. Before Rosa could process it, Victoria's voice cut through the room like a knife. What do you think you're doing? Rosa spun around. I was emptying the trash. This fell out. Give it to me. I didn't mean. Give it to me now. Victoria snatched the paper, her eyes blazing with fury. How dare you go through my private things? I wasn't. It just. Save it. Victoria's voice rose to a scream. This is exactly what I expected. Snooping, scheming, just like before. You're done here. Tommy came running. What happened? Ask her. Victoria shouted, waving the paper. She was going through my financial records. That's not true, Tommy, Rosa said desperately. It fell out while I was cleaning. Stop lying, Victoria hissed. Tommy looked between them, confusion and fear in his eyes. Enough, Victoria said, suddenly calm. Dangerously calm. Rosa, pack your things. I didn't do anything wrong. Then you'll have no problem leaving quietly. At that moment, Andrew Pierce appeared in the doorway like a vulture smelling blood. What's going on? Oh, Andrew, Victoria sighed. Just caught Rosa where she shouldn't be. Andrew's eyes turned cold. That's serious. Maybe you should go before this gets uglier. Rosa looked between them and saw it clearly. The guilt they shared. The secrets between them. She said nothing, just whispered to Tommy as she passed. Take care of yourself, sweetheart. Victoria pulled Tommy close. Don't worry, darling. I'll protect you. She's gone for good this time. As Rosa stepped outside, the door slammed behind her. From inside, she heard Tommy's muffled crying and Victoria's voice, suddenly cold, stripped of sweetness. It's almost over, Andrew, Victoria said. Just one more step. Rosa froze on the porch, her heart racing. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. Sometimes the smallest voice speaks the loudest truth. And Tommy Henderson was about to prove that. For 2 days after Rosa left, the Henderson mansion was silent. Not peaceful, just empty. Tommy barely spoke. He'd sit at breakfast, stirring his cereal until it turned to mush. Victoria pretended not to notice, but every scrape of the spoon felt like an accusation. Wednesday morning, she finally snapped. Tommy, this attitude stops now. He didn't look up. I'm fine. No, you're not. You're being disrespectful. If your father knew how you've been treating me. Tommy's head shot up. What did you say? Nothing, Victoria said quickly. No. Tommy slid off his chair. You're going to tell Dad lies about me now? Watch your tone. He faced her, small but fierce. Why did you kick Rosa out again? Victoria's expression hardened. Because she can't be trusted. You're lying. For the first time, Victoria's composure cracked. Excuse me? I heard you, Tommy said quietly. You and Mr. Pierce talking. You said Rosa was getting too close. You said you had to finish it. He backed away. You hurt Rosa. And I'm going to tell Dad everything. Victoria's eyes turned dark, dangerous. You will not repeat those words to anyone. Do you understand me? You can't stop me. Oh yes, I can. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Because nobody's going to believe an angry little boy over his stepmother. Tommy ran upstairs and slammed his door. His heart was racing, but beneath the fear, something burned brighter. He knew what he had to do. That night, Tommy waited. He'd noticed Victoria always took her phone calls late, after his bedtime. He grabbed his tablet, turned on the voice recorder, and crept into the hallway. Downstairs, Victoria's voice floated through the darkness. Yes, Andrew. Everything's ready. The transfer goes through tomorrow morning. Thomas is completely convinced I'm visiting my sister. A pause. Then laughter, cold and genuine. Andrew's voice came through faintly. You're sure Thomas won't notice? By the time he does, we'll be gone, Victoria whispered. He's too blinded by guilt to see straight. Just like with the money from the safe. Tommy nearly dropped the tablet. The money from the safe. She'd admitted it. She'd actually admitted it. He waited until Victoria hung up, then sprinted to his room. He played the recording over and over. It was all there. Her voice. The confession. Andrew's name. Proof. The next morning, chaos erupted. Victoria dragged 2 suitcases down the hallway, dressed in casual travel clothes. Where are you going? Tommy asked from the stairs. She smiled too sweetly. Visiting Aunt Linda. You'll stay with your father. Why is Mr. Pierce picking you up? Her smile faltered. He's headed to the same city. Business trip. That's convenient. Watch your mouth, she said coldly, walking past him. Thomas came downstairs, adjusting his tie. You're leaving already? Yes, dear. She kissed his cheek. I just need a break. Take care, he said flatly. Tommy watched from the window as Andrew's car rolled up. His fingers tightened around his tablet. He knew what had to do. At that same moment, downtown, Thomas's phone rang. Mr. Henderson, this is Maria Santos from First National Bank. We need to confirm a wire transfer from your account last night. What transfer? $800,000 to an Andrew Pierce. Thomas went cold. That's impossible. I didn't authorize anything. It was processed through your online portal, sir. Same credentials used before. Thomas's stomach dropped. Only 2 people knew those credentials. Him and Victoria. He hung up and ran for his car. The drive home blurred past. Every red light felt like an eternity. When he burst through the door, Tommy was waiting at the bottom of the stairs, tablet in hand. "Dad," Tommy said breathlessly. "You need to hear this." "Not now, son. Please. It's about Victoria." Something in his voice made Thomas stop. Tommy pressed play. Victoria's voice filled the hallway, smooth and damning. "Yes, Andrew. The transfer goes through tomorrow." Thomas is completely convinced. He's too blinded by guilt to see straight. Just like with the money from the safe. Thomas stood frozen. His mind raced. She'd stolen from him. Lied to him. Used him. Tommy's eyes were full of tears. "Do you believe me now?" Thomas's voice cracked. "I do, son. I do." He grabbed his phone, dialing 911. "This is Thomas Henderson. I need to report a theft and possible flight attempt. The suspects are headed for Houston International right now." Within minutes, patrol cars were dispatched. At the airport, Victoria stood near the gate in oversized sunglasses and a silk scarf. Andrew scrolled through his phone beside her. "Relax," she said under her breath. "By the time Thomas figures it out, we'll be in the Bahamas." Andrew smirked. "You always did know how to clean up a mess." Victoria Henderson and Andrew Pierce, 2 uniformed officers, stepped forward. Behind them came Thomas and Tommy. Victoria's head snapped up. Her perfect composure shattered. "Thomas, what are you doing here?" "Ending this," he said coldly. The officers surrounded them. "You're under arrest for grand larceny and conspiracy to commit fraud." Andrew raised his hands. "This is a mistake." "Save it," Thomas said. "We have a recording. Your voices, the transfer, everything." Victoria turned to Tommy, her eyes wild. "Sweetheart, you don't understand. Rosa, she manipulated you." Tommy stepped forward, trembling but firm. "Rosa never lied. You did." Her face went white. When the officers cuffed her, she stopped struggling. "You think you've won, Thomas? I did this for us." "No," he said quietly. "You did it for yourself." They led her away. Tommy watched silently, clutching his tablet. The same device that had saved them all. Hours later, back at the mansion, Thomas sat on the edge of Tommy's bed. "You were brave today," he said softly. "You saved us both." Tommy looked down. "We have to tell Rosa." Thomas nodded. "We will. Right now." He dialed her number, his voice shaking. "Rosa, it's Thomas Henderson. I owe you an apology. And so much more. Have you ever had a moment when everything you fought for finally comes true? When justice wins and love gets a second chance?" That's what happened next. The knock on Rosa's door came just after sunset. She hesitated, half expecting another rejection, another closed door. But when she opened it, her breath caught. Thomas and Tommy stood in the hallway, both looking like they'd been through a storm and finally found shelter. "Mr. Henderson," she said cautiously. "Tommy." Tommy rushed forward, throwing his arms around her waist. "Rosa," he cried, his voice breaking. "You were right. You didn't do anything wrong." Rosa dropped to her knees, hugging him tight, tears flowing freely. "Oh, sweetheart. I missed you so much." She looked up at Thomas, still standing in the doorway, hat in his hands. There was something different about him now. Something humble. Something human. "May we come in?" he asked quietly. She nodded. Her apartment was small. Just one lamp, a thin rug, the faded photo of Sophia on the table. Thomas glanced around, and guilt softened his features. "I didn't realize," he murmured. "You weren't supposed to," Rosa replied gently. "I never invited pity into my life." Tommy sat on the couch, tablet in his lap. "Dad told me everything. They arrested Victoria and Mr. Pierce at the airport. The police have the money, the recording, everything." Thomas's voice cracked. "He's right. Victoria was the one who stole from me. She and Andrew planned everything. The lies, the accusations, all of it." Rosa's hands trembled. She'd dreamed of hearing those words, but now they just made her heart ache. "So it's over?" "Yes," Thomas said, stepping closer. "Because of Tommy. And because of you. You were the only one who ever told the truth." Rosa stared at him. "Why are you here?" Thomas took a deep breath. "To apologize. Publicly. And to ask you to come back. Not as an employee, but as family." Rosa blinked. "Family?" "Yes," he said firmly. "You cared for my son when his mother couldn't. You gave him love when money didn't matter. I can't erase what happened. But I can make sure you're never treated like that again." Tommy reached for her hand. Please, Rosa. Come home. I need you. She looked between them, father and son, broken but sincere. And finally she nodded. All right, let's go home. The next morning, sunlight poured across the Henderson estate. Neighbors, friends, even former party guests gathered in the garden. Thomas had invited them all. He stood before them with a microphone. Rosa and Tommy waited by his side. 3 weeks ago, Thomas began, his voice steady but heavy with shame, I made a terrible mistake. I accused an innocent woman of theft. A woman who'd served my family with honesty and grace for years. Whispers rippled through the crowd. He continued, his eyes on Rosa. Rosa Martinez was framed by my wife and my former business partner. Both are now in custody for grand larceny and fraud. Today, I stand here to do the only thing I can. Rosa, on behalf of my family, I'm sorry. The guests fell silent. Some were the same people who'd whispered judgment that terrible night. Rosa stepped forward, her voice calm but clear. I accept your apology, Mr. Henderson. But this isn't just about me. It's about what people choose to believe when someone poor stands against someone powerful. The crowd looked away, shame softening their expensive clothes and jewelry. Tommy tugged at her hand. Tell them what you always tell me. She smiled faintly. That truth doesn't need permission to exist. Gentle applause broke out, hesitant at first, then sincere. Weeks passed. The mansion felt different now. Warmer. Lived in. Loved. Rosa had her own room upstairs, no longer the maid's quarters, but a proper guest suite near Tommy's. She still cooked and cleaned, but not because she had to. Because she wanted to. Because this was home. Thomas joined them for dinner often, learning slowly what it meant to be a father who listened. Sometimes they ate takeout, laughing over Tommy's stories from school. Other nights, Rosa would cook her mother's recipes, simple and soulful dishes that filled the house with life. One afternoon, they knelt together in the garden, planting flowers. Which ones should we plant? Rosa asked. Tommy pointed to bright yellow seeds. Sunflowers. So there's always something happy to look at. She smiled. Sunflowers it is. They dug in comfortable silence, the afternoon sun painting everything gold. Rosa, Tommy said suddenly. Can I ask you something kind of big? Always. My friend Carlos calls his nanny Mama Rosa. And my other friend calls his caretaker Mom Tia. He paused, his voice small but sure. Can I call you Mom Rosa? The trowel slipped from her hand. Tears filled her eyes before she could stop them. She turned to face him, her voice trembling with emotion. Tommy, you don't have to call me that out of kindness. He shook his head firmly. It's not kindness. It's true. You're my mom. The real one. For a long moment, Rosa couldn't speak. The words she'd waited her whole life to hear, spoken by this brave little boy who'd saved her life. She reached for him, pulling him into her arms. Okay, my boy, she whispered. If that's what your heart says, then that's who I'll be. Your mom, Rosa. From the kitchen window, Thomas watched them. A quiet smile softened his face. For the first time in years, his house looked alive again. Not just full of light, but full of warmth. Full of love. He carried out a tray with lemonade and iced tea. Break time for my gardeners? He teased. Rosa laughed softly, wiping her eyes. Only if you're helping. Wouldn't miss it, he said, kneeling beside them in the dirt. They planted together in peaceful silence. The three of them. No longer master, maid, and son. But something entirely new. Something beautiful. Family. As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky orange and pink, Tommy pointed to the row of freshly planted sunflowers. They'll bloom soon, right? Yes, Rosa said, pressing her palm into the warm soil. Good things always take time. But they're worth the wait. Is that why you never gave up? Tommy asked, looking at her with those wise, beautiful eyes. Rosa smiled. I never gave up because I had something worth fighting for. You. Thomas cleared his throat, emotion thick in his voice. Rosa, I need to say something. I know I can never make up for what happened. For not believing you. For letting you suffer. Mr. Henderson. Thomas, he corrected gently. Please. Call me Thomas. She nodded. Thomas, then. What matters is that you listened when it counted. You believed your son. You did the right thing. Because of you, he said. You taught him what truth looks like. What love looks like. You gave him something I couldn't. A mother's heart. Rosa's eyes glistened. He gave me something too. A reason to keep going. A reason to believe that good people still exist in this world. Tommy squeezed between them, taking both their hands. Can we stay like this? Forever? Thomas and Rosa looked at each other over his head, and something unspoken passed between them. Understanding. Gratitude. Hope. Yes, sweetheart, Rosa said softly. We can stay like this. That night, as Rosa tucked Tommy into bed, he asked, Do you think the house feels different now? She smoothed his hair back from his forehead. It finally feels like home. Because of you, he said sleepily. She kissed his forehead. No, my love. Because of us. All of us together. As she turned off the light, Tommy's voice came through the darkness one more time. Mom, Rosa? Her heart swelled. Yes, baby? I'm glad you never gave up. Me too, Tommy. Me too. Rosa stepped into the hallway where Thomas was waiting. He leaned against the wall, looking exhausted but peaceful. Thank you, he said simply. For everything. For loving him when I didn't know how. For being stronger than all of us. I wasn't strong, Rosa said. I was just stubborn. There's a difference. He smiled. Well, I'm grateful for your stubborn heart then. They stood there in comfortable silence, listening to the house settle around them. No more tension. No more lies. Just peace. Rosa, Thomas said after a moment. I've been thinking. I want to set up a trust fund for your daughter, Sophia. For her education. And I want to bring her here to Houston. To live with us. If you want that. Rosa's hands flew to her mouth. Thomas, I can't. Yes, you can. You're family now. That means Sophia is too. Every child deserves to be with their mother. Tears streamed down Rosa's face. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Let me do this one right thing. She nodded, unable to speak through her tears. Thomas pulled her into a gentle hug, and she let herself cry. All the pain, all the fear, all the years of struggling alone, finally released. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for giving me my life back. No, he said quietly. Thank you for giving me mine. Outside, the garden swayed gently in the night breeze. Somewhere beyond the streets of Houston, the city glittered like a place of second chances. And in one corner of it, a mansion that had once been filled with lies and suspicion now held something precious. Love. Real, honest, imperfect love. For Rosa Martinez, the maid who'd been accused, humiliated, and forgotten, life had come full circle. Truth had won. Love had survived. And in the glow of the moonlight, as the first sunflower sprout broke through the soil, she knew she hadn't just cleared her name. She'd built a new story. A better story. One where a boy found a mother, a father found his heart, and a woman found her home. And no lie, no matter how powerful, could ever destroy that. Because in the end, love is always stronger than money. Truth is always louder than lies. And family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up, who stays, who fights for you when the world turns away. Rosa had shown up. She had stayed. She had fought. And now, finally, she was home. The end. Remember, friends, this story teaches us something important. Don't judge someone by their job or their money. Judge them by their heart. The truth might take time, but it always finds its way to the light. And sometimes the family we choose loves us even more than the family we're born into. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Because somewhere out there, someone is fighting their own battle, waiting for their own truth to shine through. Let them know they're not alone. Thank you for listening. Until next time, keep believing in the power of truth and love.